We will now consider log number 5582 by Mr. Smith. For what purposes does the ranking member seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk, Mr.
Will the clerk please distribute the amendment? Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The chair now recognizes the ranking member for the purpose of explaining his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will attempt to be brief. This amendment basically to prohibit the Department of Defense, the President, from using military force to grab territory from Canada, Panama, or Greenland. We will remember during the hearing, Secretary Hegseth, despite Mr. Turner's noble efforts to try to give him an opportunity to say so, would not deny that they had a plan to use the U.S. military to, by force, take land from any one of those three places. I think that is a very bad idea for a number of reasons. Most importantly, it has been a cornerstone of our foreign policy since the end of World War I to try and put in place a rules-based international order. Now, I understand that is not perfect and certainly hasn't been perfect, but it is an incredibly important principle of international law that really didn't used to exist. Fascinating article in Foreign Affairs just last month outlining the history of it. And prior to World War II, it was kind of accepted that if countries wanted to take land, international law allowed them to do so. Changing that has given us the most peaceful 80 years in the history of human civilization. I know it may not seem like it, but by comparison, it is. If we, the United States of America, who was most responsible for positing that change in international law, just shred it to go after Canada, Greenland, and Panama, we are jeopardizing the very global security system that we put in place and offering justifications to Putin and Xi and others who want to do the same thing. It is horrible to talk about that as the President has. It's horrible that the Secretary of Defense did not even deny that there was potentially plans to do it. Now, the argument will be made, well, you never know. Okay, do we really want to tie the President's hands in terms of using military engagement? And I will, admit I'm fond of the phrase, the future is notoriously hard to predict, but I will say that I'm going to go out on a limb on this one and say that we are not going to be militarily threatened by Canada, Panama, or Denmark through Greenland. That's not going to happen. And the risk of allowing a policy to stay out there that we think it is acceptable to threaten weaker neighbors, because that's all we're doing. There's no national security threat here. They don't threaten us at all. They have something that we want, so we've decided that it is okay to use force to threaten them, which makes us no better than Putin, because that's exactly what he's doing in Ukraine and the threats that he's giving to other countries. This is a policy that I think this committee should stand for. We should stand up for the principles of international law and not threaten our partners and allies just because we think we can. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back, Chair, and I recognizes himself. Despite my enormous respect for the ranking member, I see this as a messaging amendment that has real-world consequences. It would tie our military's hands in a crisis. We'd be prevented from honoring our NATO Article 5 commitments if Greenland or Canada were, in fact, attacked. Worse, we would be unable to defend our own troops if our base in Greenland came under fire or U.S. forces were targeting while transiting the Panama Canal. We'd be forced to stand down. Even rescuing American hostages in danger would be off the table. Leaving American citizens and service members exposed is unacceptable. Therefore, I respectfully have to oppose my friend's amendment. I would like to recognize the gentlelady from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm supporting this amendment because I agree with the ranking member that normalizing the idea that a country can simply annex another country will lead to further destabilization and is against the rules and norms of the international community. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back, Chair, and I recognize the gentlelady from California, Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honestly, I can't even believe we're debating this. Like, this is too crazy even to be a Veep storyline, and yet here we are. This is not strategically sound military decision that anyone should actually make. First of all, it's unnecessary and risks destabilizing the region, antagonizing Denmark, an ally, and provoking our adversaries into increasing their own Arctic footprint. No current threat justifies a deployment of U.S. troops. We already have the Patuxent space base that meets our current defense needs, and we don't need an aggressive posture there. And Greenland, unlike its name would suggest, is cold throughout the year. It's remote, it's cold, and contrary to what Vice President Vance seems to believe, Patuxent Space Base can't accommodate an endless number of U.S. troops beyond the ones that are already there. Maybe he would know that if anyone had agreed to meet with him. Any increased presence would be costly, logistically challenging, and a hardship to the military families forced to deploy there. Deploying U.S. troops would be a waste of time, a waste of resources, and a waste of money. So I urge my colleagues to support this amendment to prevent such a silly deployment. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield to Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I do realize that this is probably not the decisive factor, but nothing in this amendment says that we can't defend these territories or that we can't come to their aid. It just says that we can't use our military force to seize their territory. So I disagree with the chairman's interpretation of that. This is about preventing us from seizing territory through military force. It does not prevent us from meeting our treaty commitments or defending our allies, which would be a preferable approach. I yield back.
I yield.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would submit if we did a sense of Congress saying we disagreed with the comments about Canada, Greenland, Denmark, Panama, that would address the concerns that we have about the president's comments, but would also address the chairman's concerns about tying our hands for hostages and things like that. But I share the concerns from the ranking member of the comments made. I know many businesses in Omaha who have lost business with Canadian clients because they're angry at us. We're seeing a decrease in Canadian tourists coming here. I have personal friends in Denmark. The Danes have lost more people per capita in Afghanistan of all the countries in Europe fighting by our side. They felt very hurt by the comments of our administration. So I think it would be fair game to say we disagree with the comments. These are our allies as a sense of Congress without tying our hands in some of the scenarios that the chairman meant, or the chairman said. Thank you. I yield.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Washington is recognized, Ms. Strickland.
Thank you, Chairman. The fact that we are even having to have this conversation is absurd. And under any other president, Democrat or Republican, we wouldn't have to bring this forward. But here we are with this administration in words that get thrown out there. I was on a CODEL with Leader Jeffries and a group of folks, and we were in Denmark, among other cities. And when we did the presser, the entire Danish press had one question that kept coming up with every outlet. Are you going to do something if President Trump tries to invade Greenland? Will Congress try to stop them? This is a big concern to them. So even though we say to ourselves, well, he just said that, he really doesn't mean it, you just don't know what to expect with this administration. Again, any other president, Democrat or Republican, this would not be necessary. But there's an issue of trust, there's an issue of credibility, and we have to make sure that we are standing with our allies. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from California, Mr. Khanna is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, my biggest concern with the annexation is not simply the violation of the international rule of law, as Ranking Member Smith says, but also that it is a fundamental misunderstanding of power in the 21st century. I mean, power in the 19th century was about the acquisition of land. And if President Trump was born at the time of James Polk, maybe he would have been a great president. But power in the 21st century is about technology leadership. It is about having supply chains. It is about leading in biotechnology, in quantum computing, in electric vehicles. And I would submit that the most important article yesterday in the New York Times was by David Otter, an MIT professor, who says we're losing to China on industry after industry in terms of building our economic power. So to me, this is just a distraction of a nation that would be in decline if we don't reverse our industrial policy and our technology leadership. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief about this, but I think this hits on one of the points that President Trump has been trying to make that nobody's paying attention to. If you look at Canada, they spend about 1.5% of their GDP on defense, somewhere less than $30 billion. The fact of the matter is they're totally dependent upon the United States to protect them if somebody attacks them. These other countries, like Canada, have got to reach closer to the 5% and help with the security of the world. So, I mean, there's no plan to invade Canada, but the fact of the matter is, if anybody invaded Canada, they would be totally dependent upon the U.S. to defend them because they have not done their job
Would the gentleman
in
yield
building their own.
question?
Sure.
So you're saying that basically this is just telling Canada, hey, if you don't get your stuff together, we're coming for you.
No, we don't want them.
Okay,
We don't
then
want
why-
any more
then
liberals
why are
in
we
this country.
threatening them?
We're trying to export.
All right.
We're trying to export people that think like that. But back to this, it's a serious issue that the rest of a large portion of the rest of the world, including Canada, has become dependent upon the United States taxpayer to cover their back. Canada and the majority of the countries of the world are not putting in what it takes to have reasonable defense mechanisms against aggression. And they, I believe, have the second lowest percentage of contributions of GDP in NATO, below 2%. I think there are 2 countries below 2%, and NATO is one of them. With that, I yield.
Gentleman yields back. Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? There be no further debate. The question occurs on the amendment offered by Mr. Smith. So many in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. No. Being the chair, the noes have it. Recorded votes requested. Recorded vote will be postponed.